Hello and welcome to another edition of our Wednesday webinar series. We are Grand Canyon University's Canyon Professional Development, and I couldn't be more excited today to discuss a topic that is so relevant to all of us. The topic is writing, and the expert is amazing. Her name is Dr. Stephanie Knight-Hay. She is Senior Adjunct Faculty here at Grand Canyon University in the College of Education. So she knows a lot about writing, and specifically writing across content areas. So she's going to tell us today about the powerful pen. Dr. Knight-Hay, thank you so much for being with us today, and thank you for sharing your wisdom first and foremost. I'm going to just jump right in and let you take over the stage and share with us what you have to share today about writing.
Well, we take for granted the fact that we can write with a pen or pencil. And what I want to know is throw it out there to our audience and just say, what do you think writing is? Is it just putting words on a paper, or is it deeper than that?
So just thinking about writing.
Yeah, what does it mean to you? So I always like to think about, like, gosh, it's a commitment. When you put something on paper, you're committing to what is written versus when you're thinking. So we want to see what's in our mind. So we'll get to that in a moment. But I do have a quick tip. I like to do something in my classroom, but it's also something about our brains. I don't know if you know, but when you are talking to somebody, or you're lecturing, or you're giving a sermon, our brains can only hold so much information. And after about 10 minutes, and it's usually per age, so like a 5-year-old can only handle about 5 minutes, a 4-year-old, 4 minutes, and it stops at about 10. So as an adult, 10 minutes is all you can really handle. And so I always like to stop what I'm saying in the classroom. So let's say you've been speaking to your class for about 10 minutes, stop and say, for 2 minutes, I want you to summarize what I've said, have a little conversation with your shoulder partner and process what I've just said to you and share something, because then you're going to cement what you've been talking about, and you don't lose them, because that glassy eye starts to happen after about 10 minutes if you've ever been in a long discussion before.
So Dr. Knight-Hay, this is fantastic. I think what you're starting off by telling us is we can only take 10 minutes of what's coming in, and then we need 2 minutes of spitting that out, processing. And I think what I'm hearing is that our brains have to have a break after 10 minutes. So thus the 10-2 rule.
Yeah. And what I like to do in my classroom, just a quick tip, is after 10 minutes, I like to, and I'm going to discuss having a little piece of paper. I'd like you to write down 2 things that you remember that I said or something. And then they talk about it with their shoulder partner for another maybe 30 seconds, and you time it, and then you call out and you see, and there's some accountability there then to see if they've really been listening. It's nice.
And there it is, the accountability. So I think that has a lot to do with writing. And I know that you have a nice talk for us today, writing to think. Tell us a little bit about where we're going.
So we're not really learning to write. We're writing to learn. What does that mean? Well, have you ever had a cathartic time, a time when you're writing and it's like a catharsis? You're like starting to discover things as you write. That's why we journal. So we're going to talk about writing to learn more about what's going on in our brains, what's going on in their brains. It's a process. We want to increase their critical thinking skills, higher order. We call them HOTS. And this is all low stakes. So we're going to cover that, how this isn't something that you need to stress about. I need to grade more papers. No, we're going to talk about how we're just going to help them learn, help them process. There's a little thing you can use called an interactive notebook, which we're going to touch upon, and some best practices. Tag, meet, gist, and we'll get to that.
I'm so excited. I don't know what all of this is as far as on the far right there, the tag, the meal, the gist, but I know that if we're going to write to think, we're going to think about writing. So I don't know, as a teacher in a content area that was not English, particularly, I taught a lot of computer science, and I loved it when my students could write, but a lot of times they didn't want to. It was very much, you say writing to learn, and I think were thinking that they had to write because someone told them to. So I'm excited to hear a little bit more about your tips and tricks.
Let me stop you there, because this slide actually brings it in. we're not talking about English teachers here. We're talking about every teacher on campus should be writing in their classroom, because if you think about the word education, it's not the word we think education is about stuffing in as much information as we can in the kid's head before they leave. Well, what about what's coming out of their brain after we've stuffed it in? We want to draw out. And you know how we do that? Talking, but mostly writing and then talking it out. So processing is a huge thing in math, science, social studies. We want to get them to think. And the only way is through writing.
Wow. Wow. Okay, that's really profound. The only way to think is through writing.
And that's every content area. That's even PE. It's art. It's every topic, every content area.
And I
You
like
need to be having them write.
I like what you say about writing is commitment, whereas talking, or you're writing it down, you're committing it maybe to memory. Is that where you're going with that?
Yes, and the way I like to do it is have them first talk. So like when you're brainstorming, you're not like writing everything. You're processing out, you're kind of externally processing, and then boom, stick some stuff on paper. So always start with maybe talking. Like I said, the 10-2 rule, talk it out, write it down. So the mirror of your thoughts. This is a great segue into what is writing. It's the mirror of what's going on inside your brain. If you want to see what you look like in the mirror, you look in a mirror. If you want to see what's going on in your brain, you look at someone's writing. Did you ever think about that?
I love that. It's a great metaphor.
It is. So the more that you can get your students to write, the more you will know what's going on in their brains, and the more you're going to know your students, but the more you're going to see what fallacies they might be thinking. Like, let's say you just gave a big topic discussion on something in science. Well, how do you know if your students are grasping what you're doing unless you have a little proof from maybe a quick little gist that you've had them write?
So that goes to show that kids need to write, and we don't necessarily need to grade all that writing, I hope, because that's the hard part for those of us non-English teachers. We don't necessarily want to grade all that writing, although I'm not sure English teachers love to do all the grading either. But tell us a little bit about low stakes writing then.
Well, a lot of people, when they think of writing, they think, oh, spelling, grammar, mechanics. I don't want to deal with all that. No, that's not what we're talking about here. And in fact, you're going to stunt the student, because they're going to freeze up and say, I don't know, I don't want to mess up my spelling and my grammar. No, this is just purely stream of consciousness writing, informal. They are writing something down right out of their brain, and you are just merely checking it. Check plus, check minus. It's non-threatening. This is just an opportunity for them to process. I'm going to talk about an interactive notebook where maybe they take notes from what you say, and on the right side, they're writing in their own words what that means, or they're writing in their own words what you've just lectured about. So the mirror of their thoughts.
Oh, that's awesome. That's, and it's simple yet very profound, because you're asking them to share with you, even if it's misspelled, or if it's, doesn't make sense to you, you have to know what makes sense to them. That's just brilliant.
Also, you're taking the pressure off you, and you're doing all the work. You're putting the monkey on their back, and you're saying, now it's your turn to process what I've said. And the onus is on them, right?
I love it.
So
that's what we want.
Right. That's where the 3-2-1 is a great little tool you can use in your classroom. You can stop at any time, maybe after your 10 minutes, and do a 3-2-1. You can do this at the end of your day. What is 3-2-1? Well, let's talk about it. So let's say that you've covered something and you say, okay, class, I want you to write down 3 things that you've learned. And I'm going to give you a template of how to answer those questions. Maybe you want them to write in complete sentences, or maybe you just want bullet points. So give me 3 things that you've learned. Talk about it first, maybe, then write it down, or write it down first and then talk about it, whichever way you want. 2 interesting items you want to know more about. Now, this is great information for you as a teacher, because when you get that, you'll be like, oh, they didn't get that, or, oh, they need to know more about that. What great information. It's free. And then 1 question you still have about the material, and maybe they're stuck. and you need to cover that more. Well, now you have that information when they leave the class. Maybe they've written it on a note card, and you can just shuffle through these note cards and go, oh dear, I need to cover that more. It's great information.
Well, I love this concept. Now, as a teacher in the classroom, I'm thinking to myself, okay, they've written this down. Maybe they've written it on a piece of paper. Maybe I'm in an online situation and they're writing it in a discussion board, or they're writing it on some digital device. How do I, in the moment, is this something that's in the moment where I'm, informally assessing? Do they share with me right away? I mean, I suppose you could even do this like in a Zoom chat, right? 3 things that you've learned.
Right. You could do it any way you want. Now, let's say you're in the classroom, you hand out some note cards, you have them write it down. Maybe they take a quick break and you're shuffling through. That's one way. Or as an exit ticket, you could do it in a discussion board at the end of your class. You could have them write it out or email you, or you could do it as a Padlet, which we'll talk about in a minute. There's so many uses. Just remember 3, 2, 1. Just as a quick check for understanding. Now,
Wow.
sometimes you need a template. Some kids need scaffolding, right? And that's a fancy word for give them support. And sometimes they don't know how to start. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to start. Well, you know what? Here's our question. Guess what you're going to do? Turn that question into a statement. That's your first sentence. Okay. What do you know about da 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 da? Then you write out that question into a statement. That's your T. Then answer the question. Then sentence 2, 3, and 4, or just 2 if they're maybe 3rd grade. Maybe you just want sentence 2. Give more detail. Now, this tagging is so easy. You can throw this out in the middle of class. You can throw this out on a discussion board. You can throw this out at the end. Tagging is something you can and your kids will catch on. Okay, let's tag. Let's tag it.
That
It's
is so
easy to
great.
remember.
And
Yeah.
and what you're doing, what I'm feeling is it's fun, right? You got
It's
10, 2,
fun.
you got 3, 2, 1, tag, you're it. Turn the question into a statement, answer the
Yeah.
question, give more detail. It sounds
Right.
fun. So you're teaching writing. And so often kids are like, oh, writing, but this is so much fun. Can you do it at any age level, like tagging and 3, 2, 1? Is it any age level that works?
You know what? I think you could even do it with drawing in kindergarten.
Wow.
You could say, draw a picture of what I just talked about, add a couple words. You could do this with K through 12.
That's awesome. Well, probably even beyond, huh? Because you
Or
teach
yeah, I mean,
university.
any grade. Yeah, really any.
But that's no, it's a
But
lot of fun. Okay, now here you talk about meal. Tell me a little bit. It's I love all these acronyms. It's great. Go ahead.
well, sometimes you want your students to maybe add a little bit more, or you want a practice for the big essay coming up, or maybe they're in a class where they need to add more. Well, let's meal. And your first sentence is you want to scaffold again. So the M is your main idea. Write down, and it can be the question again. Turn the question into a statement, like your topic sentence, your main idea. Then you want evidence, your supporting details, E. Analyze what you just said. So there's some supporting words you could use, like this, for example. This shows that. And so you want to add more detail. And then the link, the L, is either a link to the next paragraph, a transition, or a landing. So if you just want to write a paragraph. So this is great for discussion board. Let's say you have a discussion question. If you're an online educator, you have a discussion board and you want them to write a full post, meal. Then that way you have a template for their writing, because sometimes they're like, how many sentences does it have to be, right? Well, now you have a little bit of a template for them. So tag for something quick, meal for something more formal.
I love it. I love it. So this is
practice for an essay. Yeah.
what I like about it. It kind of gives you like the meat and potatoes, right? Tag is kind of the appetizer. Now we're into the meal. So you got to give me a little bit more. I love the way that you just make this fun. So give me the gist of something else, a good tip that's fun to teach writing.
Yeah, well, Twitter's known for their gist, because you have to say what you feel. Unfortunately, not so kindly sometimes with Twitter, but they have to whittle down their thoughts into 70. I don't even know. I don't tweet, but But gist is something that you can use in the classroom to really get them to think clearly about something that they have learned. They have to be able to summarize in just a few words, and it's so great for them to be able to process. So don't have them just right away. Maybe have them like stream of consciousness writing, and then at the end of class say, okay, I want you to gist what we've talked about this, this morning, or about this one topic about the rainforest, in 20 words. And then that's their exit ticket.
Oh, an exit. This would be a great exit ticket, because then you actually only give them a certain amount of time, and they know that they only have 20 words. So they probably think, oh, no big deal, only 20 words. But taking a lot down to 20 words, that's a heck of a skill. And I know that, in social media that we do here at K-12 development, I mean, it is really challenging sometimes to get our big posts down into those smaller posts, and
That's a
this is a
processing.
great way to teach that. I didn't even think about that. I got to teach some of our employees here at Canyon Professional Development how to gist. Thank you
Well,
for that.
if I can just stress that this is not about writing formally. This is about truly 100% processing. We want to understand what they're thinking. Please get away from stressful writing, essays, grading, all that. Just get your mind into a paradigm shift here. This is truly process writing, in low stakes writing, not formal, not graded. This is also great for an entry ticket when they come into class. Have them write something quickly about what they remember from yesterday.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I love the fact that it's non-threatening, and it's fun. Like I said before, it's fun. So you also use Padlet in your writing, both online as an instructor online and in person. Tell us about Padlet.
Padlet's just a format. So, if you're teaching in person, it's kind of like having Post-it notes. Take a Post-it note and write down something and post it on the board. Well, this is similar, but online. So post something you think about this. Here's a discussion question, like this was a Great Gatsby discussion question. Post your thought. This is nice because you can see everybody's thinking right there in front of you, and other people can see and comment. And it's very nice for an online platform for quick brainstorming, for quick, what are they thinking? So something easy to see, full spectrum here.
Okay, what was very interesting that you just said was this allows you to see everyone's thinking, so that you went right back to the mirror of your thoughts again, where the nice part of this digital notebook here is that we're seeing each other's thinking. And I noticed as well that you can comment, right? So, and you can comment anonymously. I think that is so powerful. It's a great, I mean, I love using Padlet myself. And so many different ways that you can use it. So we'll have Padlet in our show notes for sure, so people can check that out as well.
This is a great way where you can say, now I need you to tag. You can't be just writing, yes, I agree. No, we're going to write down, oh, I like how you said this. I'm wondering what you think about this. So you must have an expectation of what you expect. So before you present something like this, always have a model of what a good post or reply, substantial reply is. So that's important.
That is key, very crucial. And you just said you could tag it. So utilizing those tips that you just talked about, making sure that you have evidence of not just good job. That is absolutely true. I find that all the time, because adults will.
Oh yeah, they won't read it and they'll go, oh, that's so smart. I love how you said that. Yeah,
as easy as they can. Well, you've talked to us a lot about thinking. So what's our ThinkPad all about?
Okay, this is my favorite tip, my big trick. Well, a lot of it. So our ThinkPad, everybody at their desk should have, and this is for if you're teaching on campus, everyone should. I always have this next to me wherever I am, even in my car. I have a ThinkPad. Now, when every student should have a ThinkPad on their desk. Now, this is great for surprising your students and saying, okay, you're talking, it's been 10 minutes. All right, I'm going to stop what I'm saying, and I want you to write down 2 things you remember that I just said. And they'll be like, oh, okay. So they're writing down something, then after they have written. So you don't have them talk first, because then you're going to get the one that likes to talk a lot, say everything and give the answer. You want to give them accountability. So after they have written, then you say, now share with your shoulder partner what you have written. And then you do a popsicle stick and you call on them so they know that their number's going to come up, and they're going to have to be responsible and be accountable for what they've said. So it serves many purposes. It gives accountability. It gives a chance for students to process on paper. Also, just personally, I like to have a little, I call it my squirrel pad, where I'm like, during the day, I'm doing my stuff and I squirrel. Oh yeah, thought I got to get that. Oh, I need juice at the store, you know? So it's nice to have always something to write down your thoughts, your thinking, when you're having a moment. So it serves many purposes.
I'm a complete squirrel. I constantly get distracted. And I think what you're saying is it's helpful to write those distractions down. It almost allows you to continue to process what you're like focused on in the moment.
But for students, it's great just to have accountability for what they're thinking, or just quick thoughts that they have, and then have them share. It's nice.
I love it. And you're not putting them on the spot, right? For saying, oh, tell me what you're thinking. It's write what you're thinking. And then
it gives them a chance to process it first. And so they're not on the spot embarrassed.
I love that, because I also think that, being an extrovert myself, I want to blurt something out. But so many of my friends, my husband, for example, very introverted, he can't just answer on the fly. And I think that we extroverts sometimes, myself, and I'm blaming myself here, we tend to talk over some of our students. And so utilizing this technique, this tip is such a great, it's a great way for me to stop as a teacher and say, wait a minute, let's let everyone think, including yourself. That wonderful, wonderful advice, Dr. Knight. Hey, that's so amazing. Obviously that, as you said, that was your killer tip there, and I can't agree more. That I might call it a squirrel pad as my takeaway. I think that's that's just totally who I am. But I've taken away so much. I hope our viewers have as well. Tag, meal, gist, the think pad, and the mirror of our thoughts, knowing that writing is really a processing. So I've really learned a lot. It's not about the act of writing, it's about the act of thinking. So the powerful pen, for sure. The powerful pen brings the powerful brain. Thank you so much for your expertise today. I'm really excited that so much of more of this material will be there on canyonpd.com at our Canyon PD Solutions to Go. Folks, if you want more information about the powerful pen and writing across the content area, Dr. Knight Hay will, she is a part of our Canyon PD Solutions team, and cannot wait to share with you all that she has to share from her vast experience as an educator, and as an educator of educators. So that's a pretty great role to play. I want to also encourage everyone to subscribe now for more free PD. There's all kinds of free PD on our YouTube channel, and don't forget to follow us on social at GCU K-12 ED. Dr. Knight Hay, is there any last parting words, like maybe what you would have told yourself as a younger teacher? Maybe a bit of advice that you would give yourself as a younger teacher to close us out today?
Yes, do reflect. Spend each day, at the end of the day, write down what you remember about your day and do some reflecting, and revisit those notes. Because it's always nice to look back and go, what could I have done better? What could I have learned from today? But if you don't write it down, you won't remember. So reflect on, and have your students reflect too, every day.
Have that think pad nearby and reflect. Thanks again, Dr. Knight Hay. We will be back next time with another Wednesday webinar series. For now, bye-bye, folks.